Hello, can you see me? Can you hear me? Am I in the frame yet? Fiddlesticks. Hello, YouTube. Hello, world. My name is Dean. Well, we're off to a great start, aren't we? My name is Dean, and I am recording this video immediately after having a conversation with my father about about recording videos and the potential to, to earn money and to gain a following online and, this, that, and the other, right? And so we had a conversation about it, and it kind of inspired me to just, to start, right? So, we were discussing, we're recording this not, I'm recording this not long after the whole thing with Moist Critical Charles White, right? He posted his earnings, and it was all an uproar, right? And it's not like I didn't know all this time that you could make money on YouTube. But it kind of put things into perspective. It was kind of a slap in the face, like, oh, hey, this is the actual potential here. So, and so we've been talking about it, me and my family, my brother and my father. We've been talking about this quite a bit lately, and the conclusion that we've come to is there is basically no excuse to do anything in the year 2025 without a camera rolling, because there's an audience for anything and everything, right? We've been discussing, the types of things that we watch. We all three of us, we watch very different content online, right? And some of it is just like completely, you would call it mundane content. It's just people doing stuff in their everyday lives. There are car mechanic influencers. They're car mechanics. They fix stuff, but they do it with a camera rolling, and they've got, thousands and thousands of followers, and they're making money doing it, right? Or you've got, my dad, he's a real outdoorsy type, and so he'll, there's a couple that he watches who, they live in Alaska, and all they do is live, right? But they live with with a camera rolling, and there's an audience for that, right? So they do whatever you do when you live in Alaska. You chop wood, and I don't know, bake bread, right? You can do literally anything, and if you film it and put it online, there's a chance that somebody's gonna watch it, right? And and you gotta know to a certain extent, like how to farm the algorithm and how to play the game, right? But um, the most important thing in all of this, the most important step, is just to start, right? Just to begin. Um, you know, and so for me, like, I've known that all of these things are true for a long time. I just, came up with various reasons why I shouldn't. Just, came up with reasons to talk myself out of actually doing it. Because I think everybody's had in this day and age, right? Everybody's had the dream of being an influencer, right? Especially like young people or young kids, right? That, they say they want to be influencers when they grow up. Everybody has that dream, and but I think few people ever actually take the first step to making it happen, and then even fewer people actually make it, so to speak, right? But the first, nobody ever made it without trying, without beginning, you so but I've told myself all this time, like, who who's gonna watch me? I'm just some 24-year-old nobody. I don't really have anything to add, right? I'm not old enough uh, to be wise enough to provide counsel to anybody in any meaningful way. I'm not smart enough to influence anyone. I'm not knowledgeable enough to teach anybody anything. I'm not handsome enough to have an audience just for my looks, and I'm not funny enough to just, I mean, to be a comedian, right? So what do I have to offer? What do I have to offer to the whole situation? You know, what can I say that hasn't already been said better? And this is the mentality that I've had that has prevented me from actually beginning the journey, from actually trying, you know. Um, but thinking about it, you got to think about it in a different perspective, right? Think about the people who you admire. Think about the greats, right? Were they always great? In some aspects, yes, right? I mean, we all know Einstein, right? And Einstein was surely always a genius, but he wasn't always the guy who formulated the theory of relativity. He started somewhere. Probably started as some kid reading books somewhere, and then eventually he became somebody. But before he was somebody, he was nobody. He was a nobody who was presenting his ideas somewhere, right? He We all start as nobody. The only way to become a somebody is to add to the conversation, to add something of value, or just to add things, right? So for example, uh, in my personal life, somebody whom I've been finding a lot of value in listening to recently is Ram Dass, Richard Alper, right? Um, and But I couldn't have just started listening to Ram Dass. I've known his name for years, but I wasn't ready to start listening to him now. I wasn't ready for those ideas now, right? So before it was Ram Dass, it was Alan Watts. And before it was Alan Watts, it was Terence McKenna. And before it was Terence McKenna, it was it was Paul Stamets, and I came into contact with Paul Stamets through Joe Rogan, and before it was Joe Rogan, it was the church that I grew up in, right? It the evolution of people, it comes in stages, right? So I wasn't always ready to listen to Ram Dass, and Ram Dass is surely going to lead me somewhere else, somewhere better, somewhere greater, right? It's going to lead me to the next stage. So you got to think about it, where you got to think, because I'm not as wise as Ram Dass, or as Alan Watts. I'm not as genius as Terence McKenna, or as knowledgeable as Paul Stamets, and I'm not as entertaining as probably any of these people are. So what do I have to add? Like, why even try? If I'm not as good as any one of these guys, then why try? Why try to say something that they haven't said already? And it's because just because I'm not the best that there ever was in a particular field doesn't mean there's not a place for my ideas. Because just as I wasn't always ready for Ram Dass, somebody else might not be ready for a Terence McKenna, right? But maybe where they're at this moment, they are ready to hear my words. Maybe they're ready. Maybe with where they are in their journey, they are ready to hear the words of a 24-year-old nobody who thinks he knows a thing or two about philosophy, spirituality, and psychedelic drugs, right? They're not ready for Terence McKenna. They're not ready for these people, right? But maybe they're ready for me. So I do have So everybody has something of value to add to someone, to somebody's life, you know? And so with that shift in perspective, you realize that you don't have to be the greatest there ever was to begin. It's, I mean, the time to begin is now. You have something to add. You just have to find the right audience. Or, in this day and age, rather, maybe the right audience just has to find you. But none of this starts unless you get the ball rolling, unless you begin, right? So, after having this conversation with my father, I just, ran over here and did my hair and set my phone up. I have a wonderful setup. You're resting right now on a French press, on a coffee French press, smaller than this one. But um, you know, the point of this whole video is I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this channel. There actually isn't even a channel yet. I'm just talking. It's just me here. Uh, I'm assuming this is going on YouTube. That's why I think I addressed you as hi YouTube earlier, right? But the point is that I'm starting. So this video exists merely as a starting pistol for me, right? And for you, this is your sign that if you have something to say, even if you don't think anybody will listen, just say it. The time is now to start, you know, because nobody made it overnight. Nobody ever made it overnight. Think about all these great people that you listen to, or or even just your run of the mill or regular social media influencers, right? Um, None of them really ever made it big off their first video. Maybe if they were extremely lucky, they did, right? But usually it took a while to get the ball rolling, to get picked up by the algorithm, and whatever. It's a accumulating effect there. But they started at one point or another. So that's what I'm doing. So this is the beginning of something, or maybe it's the beginning of nothing. I don't know, but it's a beginning, and that's what matters. So if you're watching, thanks for watching, and maybe we'll see each other again. I don't know. But yep, that's all that I have to say for now.